instantly. And they would have said, well, what is this? How did he get shot? Like, how did this happen? And those are real questions that we have to get to the bottom of. But in the moments, the days, the week after the shooting, he did not say that. He did his best to bring the country together. And I thought, this is the divisive figure? This is the irresponsible person? No. This is the most responsible, unifying behavior of a leader I think I've ever seen. So the question is, where is he leading us? And I could go on for hours, but let me just sum it up. I do think the entire point from the famous escalator ride 9 years ago until today of Donald Trump's public life has been to remind us of one fact, which is a leader's duty is to his people, to his country, and to no other. That's the point. That's the only point. And another word for this is democracy. Democracy, in case you're a little sick of being beaten in the face with democracy on television, actual democracy is the proposition that the citizens of a country own that country. They're not renters, they're not serfs, they're not slaves, they are the owners of the country. And for that to be true, their leaders have to represent them, which is another way of saying they have to do what the people want them to do, or a close approximation thereof. But if they completely ignore what people want, not just 1 year, but generationally, say for 50 years, then it may be, I don't know what, it's not a democracy. And so I think the entire Trump project, paradoxically, is attacked as an enemy of democracy, is to return democracy to the United States. Hey, let's pay attention to what people actually want. And the lack of interest in that question in Washington is something that ultimately drove me out of the city after 35 years. Lawmakers stepping over the prostrate bodies of their fellow citizens ODing on drugs to go cast votes to send money to some foreign country. Yeah, actually, we've lost more Americans from drugs in the past 4 years than we lost in World War II. Yeah, our bloodiest war. More than we lost in World War II. Does anybody care? It is pathetic. It is pathetic. And do you hear a single word from Washington about doing anything about it? We know where the drugs are coming from. We know the supply routes. The U.S. military spent billions bombing the Ho Chi Minh Trail. You don't see our commander-in-chief suggesting that we use our military to protect our country or the lives of its citizens. No. That's for Ukraine. And it's too much, actually. It's too insulting. It's too insulting. It's a middle finger in the face of every American. It's a very clear statement, which is unmistakable. And that is, we don't care about you. And Donald Trump, whatever you say about him, and I think he's a wonderful person. I know him well. By the way, the funniest person I've ever met in my life, actually. You can't be funny without perspective or without empathy, which is true. But everything else about Trump aside, he actually cares because he's interested in the people who live here because that's his job. A father's job, his duty is to his family. An officer's duty is to his men. A president's duty is to his citizens. And he seems to be the only one who thinks that. And in his choice for vice president, J.D. Vance, he's made that really clear. J.D. Vance, I'll say this about him, is a thoroughly decent man, and I'll just admit it, a friend of mine, one of the very few politicians in Washington who actually is very close to his own wife, which is wonderful to see. And she's wonderful, actually. But J.D. Vance has views that are closer to Trump's voters than anyone else in Washington in office. Therefore, he's the vice president. That's called democracy. So I will stop on just one point, and that is what's happened over the past month since the debate, and particularly on Saturday in Butler. I think a lot of people are wondering, what is this? This doesn't look like politics. Something bigger is going on here. I think even people who don't believe in God are beginning to think, well, maybe there's something to this, actually. And I'm starting to think it's going to be okay, actually. I do think that. In the day after the midterm elections in 2018, Antifa came to my house. The Democratic Party's militia, okay? I was at work. It was obvious when I was at work because it was public. My wife was home alone. They tried to come in through the front door. They terrorized her. She hid in our pantry. It was on television. It was horrible, actually. It was, I mean, I'm not whining about it. I wasn't getting shot in the face, but it wrecked our day. And the next morning, we're lying in bed, and the phone rings for my wife, and it's Donald Trump, who's not like a regular text buddy of Donald Trump's. She picks it up, hello? Susie, it's Donald Trump. And it's coming through, I could hear it. You know, I'm lying in bed, whoa. And the first thing he says is, I'm gonna stand guard outside your house. And she goes, oh, it's so nice. And he says, I'll never forget this as long as I live. He says, you know, there's a lot of hate out there. And she said, you know, there is, Mr. President. And then he says, but there's a lot of love. There's a lot of love. And we are seeing that love. I don't think it's human love. And I'll just stop with this. I'm not always convinced that I'm on the right side. I've been on the wrong side many times. You'll never hear me say I'm on God's side, or God's with me, or even I'm with God. I want to be, not sure I am. But I will say this unequivocally and conclusively. God is among us right now. And I think that's enough. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Golf Joe.
That was Tucker Carlson. You may remember him from the 8 o'clock hour here. Talking about how the assassination attempt completely transformed Donald Trump into a national leader. And the bravery he showed with the fists in the air, that courage was infectious, and didn't use that moment to inflame the country, used that moment to unify the country. And he will represent the people, something democracy should be all about. And said, God is among us. Anchor of the story, Martha McCallum, and Fox News contributor Karl Rove join me now. People are, not just Tucker, but many people this evening and all week, talking about Trump's humanity. Last night we heard from his granddaughter, Kai. Let's listen to this.
He calls me during the middle of the school day to ask how my golf game is going and tells me all about his. But then I have to remind him that I'm in school and I'll have to call him back later. When we play golf together, if I'm not on his team, he'll try to get inside of my head. I know. And he's always surprised that I don't let him get to me. But I have to remind him I'm a Trump too.
And just the softening of Donald Trump, the man. You've seen a lot of that this week, Martha.
We have. Kai was on my show today, and she said, I'm with him all the time. I said, what do you think when you hear from people, that they present your grandfather in a way that doesn't feel real to you? She's like, well, I'm with him all the time because we play golf all the time. And, absolutely, it humanizes him. I think you're hearing a lot of these softer side of him stories that I think were much more obvious before 2016. As soon as he won, as soon as he had the audacity of beating Hillary Clinton, his opponents wanted to turn him into a monster. And that has been the battle of the last several years, through impeachments, through indictments, and then with a bullet flying by his head. And I thought Tucker made a good point about the historical context of this. Sometimes history takes the reins itself.
All right, guys, so a lot happening tonight. You just heard from Tucker Carlson. Trump, of course, is going to be on the main stage in just minutes. I mean, super exciting to hear what he's going to say. A lot of people talking about what message he's going to bring to America. But Tucker Carlson said something that's so important, guys, and that is that Trump is already America's leader. When he was on that stage, blood streaked across his face, right? And he lifts up his fist and says, fight, fight, fight. He showed he is the stronger man. And he's already, guys, I mean, you can feel the energy in this event. Donald Trump, already America's leader. And I think that's just, such an exciting, you can feel the energy right now. Now, we just need to make the fact that Donald Trump is our leader, we need to make it official in November. And another thing that Carlson said that was so like important was that we lost, crazy statistic, more Americans due to drugs in the last 4 years under Biden than we did in all of World War II. Guys, that is a very humbling statistic, in that we're sending all of this money over to other countries when we should be spending it on America, guys. It's America first. It's not second. It's not third. It's first. And this is a theme that has resonated with the American people because we are electing politicians to lead us, to put us first, not to put Ukraine first, not to put this country first, not to put that country first. We're pouring billions of dollars into other countries. It needs to be America first. Tucker on that stage, and I had to wonder while I was listening him, would he be on that stage if he was still with Fox? And I know even Jesse Waters made a comment about it. You know, it's really interesting to see what's gone on with him, and I know that he has a huge following. But one other thing is that one other point that he made, and I think this is huge, Vance is more like Trump than any other politician in Washington. Notice, Trump didn't pick a Washington politician, he picked Vance, right? Somebody from, he even called himself a hillbilly, right? Someone from the woods, someone with a meemaw, right? There is this narrative that is all a part of this RNC right now, that Trump is human. He's part of, you know, from the shooting that happened that showed that he was human, but not just human, he's a strong leader, and he's picking people like Vance that are going to get in there and fight for Americans. So really exciting to see everything that's happening, guys. I'm going to be back with another video very quickly here, but thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see y'all very soon.